It's just taking it from theory to practice always is the hard part.
But that was also before we knew that we weren't operating legally.
Well, but
from
that,
from an ordinance.
but we're trying to correct that. That's the
I know, but you
point.
can correct that just by changing what we have and adopting it, as we have tried 3 times. So I guess,
And it failed 3 times, Larry, so.
Actually, it was tabled once, and it was brought back only when it was obvious that,
Mm.
we didn't have all the information that we needed to,
I mean, how soon do you think this BPU thing can be turned around in your judgment? Because I still see the matter at hand is
Mhm.
the operation of the EUB in an illegal manner that has to be fixed before
I
anything
know,
else.
but that's,
So you're saying, rather than just tackle that, we should expand the scope of the problem?
well, that certainly, we didn't have any direction from anyone on council that that's what we should undertake next. But we did have a consensus of council members, as I mentioned at the beginning of this work session, that we have 3 council members and me as mayor, which is 4 of 6, which is the number required to pass a charter ordinance for a BPU.
But you have 2 functioning utilities in this town that are operated by a council. And you have one that you claim is better operated by an AUB, and you're saying combine them all, take the 2 that are working perfectly fine, take the one that has not reviewed even their expenditures, and throw them all into a mixer and come up with something totally different to satisfy the needs of the state statute.
I would say that
That just doesn't, I mean, that,
I'm sorry that
That's
doesn't
such an
compute to you.
illogical thing.
Actually, I would say that whatever charter ordinance gets created for a BPU is going to be more comprehensive than ordinance 2296, and honestly, possibly more comprehensive than what they've got in McPherson. So, to really give some direction and oversight and teeth to the ordinance, the charter ordinance that would establish it. You know, you make it sound like we're throwing it in a mixer and hitting frappe, but that's not what I'm talking about doing,
I
Larry.
mean, there's 172 Kansas municipal utilities out there, and you've chosen one that has a BPU. And I haven't seen, I mean, I guess I would ask the council to go back and say, why, what is the need for this? What is, I mean, go back to your original thesis, which was an improper execution of policy.
Can I just say that this is an argument that you've made on multiple occasions, and right now, we're sitting here with a consensus of the governing body that was willing to go towards a BPU.
So how long are we gonna hammer this out? Because you're on one topic. I mean, we don't know anything about the number of people that are gonna be on the BPU. We don't have, I mean, McPherson, I believe, pays their members. Is that what you're proposing, to pay?
I don't know if they pay their members or
I
not,
think I
no,
read that on their site.
but I'm not,
So, I mean, are you
you know,
gonna?
the EUB has not been a paid position. I don't think that I
No,
was
not the
going to
EUB,
propose.
but McPherson, who you,
Yeah, I wasn't going to propose that the BPU
but
get
I know
paid. Is there anybody else that was thinking we were gonna propose that the BPU members get paid?
well, can you just provide some
Can-
other?
can-
Did
I
you want
mean,
to propose that?
Can you just provide some other example other than a city that is the reciprocal of the demographics of Gardner, and just come up with some other model that we can at least look at?
Well,
Out of 172 utilities, there's gotta be somebody else to look at except McPherson, Kansas, right?
Well, because there's not a lot of BPUs in Kansas. That's not to say that there's not a lot of BPUs across the country.
Right, but in Kansas, there's 172 municipal-owned utilities. Why do you think McPherson and Wyandotte County or unified government are the only 2 that really stand out? I mean, is there-
Actually,
I mean,
there's a third in Clay Center, but you know
Okay.
what? They don't have a very robust online presence. And they are demographically a much smaller city than we are, whereas McPherson is at least within 10,000 residents. Clay Center is more like 2,000 or 3,000 residents.
Chris,
It's harder to compare.
my question, I guess, for this evening explicitly is, at the end of the session, where do we want to be? I think we got lost in disbursement, which I don't think ties to the EUB. That's after you decide, those
BPU.
funds will, or the BPU, both. I think, my hope was that we would get to conversation on how the BPU is built,
Yes.
what we want to accomplish, what is going to be, hopefully by the end of the meeting, we will be able to at least look at what we thought would be the founding stones of how that would be built and go from there, so staff could research and build it. Do we want a BPU that has wastewater and Gardner Energy tied into one piece? Do we want a BPU that actually has two individual boards, one for the electric utility, one for the water and wastewater, and have specialized boards that pull into one BPU? How do we want to build that together so we can move forward? That's what I'm hoping we get to,
Yeah.
instead of a lot
And-
of this piece of it.
And I'm hoping that we can get there too. Part of the reason that I wanted to lead with this is because there's been a lot of discussion about the fact that the Electric Utility Board has built up a fund balance for capital equipment replacement and an operating fund balance, and that the council's really only interested in talking about things to do with the Electric Utility Board so that we can get our greedy mitts on those reserve funds. And even though we've talked about this repeatedly.
Right.
Now, when we talk about the disbursement, and we talk about state statute, it doesn't preclude us from doing any of the things that we've done previously, including the things that were built into the 2014 budget. And I guess I just need it to be clear, because if we're going to allow members of the public who aren't here to demagogue the issue of council action as simply a money grab for EUB reserves, we've got to put that to bed so that we don't have to talk about that at subsequent meetings.
Mhm.
How much money do they have, anyway, in those reserves?
It
Mark, can
doesn't
you-
feed itself to the conversation for tonight. We're 40 minutes in and we haven't accomplished one thing
Well, I mean,
towards the
he's talking
BPU.
about-
40
talking about
minutes,
disbursement
and we haven't
of
gotten
funds.
one step further.
I agree, this is.
And the money
It's a
that's in
waste
the
of
fund right
time.
now doesn't feed into that at all. Let's bring the conversation to what you want the BPU to be and
Correct.
go down that road. I mean, 40 minutes and we haven't gotten one step. We haven't gotten from even off of point A, let alone to point B. That's what I want to see us go towards at this point.
You know, and I would like to get there too, but...
Go.
But we,
Let's go then.
well, Councilman, I would say that I'm not the only person that's been discussing this.
I realize.
And there's been other people that have had questions and made comments. You know, you can direct that kind of aggravation at other people that are at the dais.
I didn't say Chris ahead of that. I spoke out and said that's exactly
Okay.
where we're at. So,
So, yeah, at the end of the day, it seems like, and some of this goes to the confusion that we had previously about authorization for expenditures, which is section I of ordinance 2296, and J of 2296, use of utility funds, which I think there was a great deal of misunderstanding about during the budget session. And I think that it just needs to be acknowledged, and I will gladly move forward from there, that by state statute, the city can take money from and transfer money from the Electric Utility Board, a BPU, anything going forward. It needs to be understood. Now, we kind of rushed through some things last summer, and I think we can plan it better in the future.
Mhm.
And I think that maybe that'll make everybody a little happier.
Just a little more communication would
Yeah.
have been.
But I do want to say that this is statutorily something that we can do and something that we have repeatedly not done. And yes, I'm perfectly ready to go forward from there.
Can I just ask the question, maybe.
Certainly.
Make a recommendation, sorry.